everyone. Caroline here. Thanks for joining me. This week, we're going to dive into the discussion and then the frequency healing guided experience, as always, at the end, where we are discussing what is it to let ourselves face the unknown, to be able to surrender into the void and to cross that threshold in our spiritual journey where we go from on the unconscious level, that's still survival mechanism of someone's coming to save us, to radical responsibility and then therefore creation of our lives. And this phrase has just been in my consciousness so much, and what I have seen in the world it playing out. And that's no one's coming to save you. No one's coming to save me. And often, especially those who have gone from the unraveling of old dogmatic religions, where you might have grown up in a Judeo-Christian household. There's just the programming of being here in the U.S., like what our country was founded on, and the puritanical belief systems, and then much less ingrained from different past lives, the old gods. There's just been so much dogma throughout the evolution of our consciousness, the evolution of our DNA, that says there's power outside of us. There's someone coming to save us, and there's also someone who grants you wishes or condemns you. And there's not to say that there are not these ascended beings, these illuminated ones that are interfacing with the human world to help guide us into this place of awakening, into this place of ascension and embodiment. But when we trade the, old man with a beard in the sky for Saint Germain or the ascended masters, and still in this place of power over, or that they're going to save us. If we do the violet flame enough, then, we will have a life free of suffering. So it's when we have, the Merlins, the Bodhisattvas, the Indian gurus, the great grandmothers of the wisdom traditions. It's when we mistake those way showers, those guides, for the way. And I've seen this just a lot in my practice of working with folks for 20 plus years, and in my own evolution and my own different threshold moments on my path, where I had to really look at where did I just trade, again, like the old man in the sky, for a more new age or old age personification of this being that is going to come and give me the answers, that's going to make sure that I don't suffer, that I will, have all that I want to create, and then I won't experience what I don't want to create. And so there's a way that we must confront this terrifying fact that no one can live our lives for us. There are ways that we can get plugged into, and this is on an unconscious level, those places where if we do enough mantras, if we do enough prayers, then XYZ will happen. And as much as those practices are so important, and they do elevate consciousness, and they do have a way of purifying the samskaras, the karmas in our bodies and our lives, there's still no guarantee. And that's the point that I'm speaking to here, is we need to be able to become mindful, to catch ourselves when our practices, our spiritual personalities, the ways that we can kid ourselves into the same path of, this is what we'll do for a good life, and this is what we'll do to avoid a quote unquote bad life. And so again, we can trade the old gods for then like the new age gods, and then it comes back around to the ancient gods. And this is a human natural response. It's the way that the mind, the nature of mind is like, how do I make sense? How do I make sense of the absolute brutality of this world and the suffering that happens on our planet? How do I make sense And so then we overlay karma, we overlay the manifestation, the law of correspondence, right? So, and not to say that these aren't true, but it's how we relate to these universal laws, is how we relate to these truths that we need to look at. Are we still relating from an adolescent consciousness that ultimately is still looking for the daddy in the sky to absolve us and to make sure that we are safe? And when we arrive at these threshold moments in our spiritual awakening and our path and journey of mastery and self-illumination, is these moments where when we can sit in the unknown, when we are thrown into situations that we would not want for ourselves, we would not want for others, and we sit into the void of the unknown, that there is no why, there is no how do I get out of this. We just have to sit into that abyss of the darkness, and that there are no answers, and we don't have a timeline for those answers. And when we can really let go and allow ourselves to surrender into that unknown, into simply what is really when the path of alchemy and the path of true self-mastery can begin. Because it takes years and lifetimes to navigate all the ways that the unconscious mind is informing the conscious mind for survival, for old programming of and this belief that keeps us in this power over structure of the old religions. So, we can, again, do this where we consciously, and especially if you're listening to this or you're in my orb, is like we've consciously unraveled from the old dogma, right? But we have to catch ourselves to, when we are going to the ceremonies, when we are creating the altars, when we are in our meditations, when we're going to the meditation retreat to feel better, to shift something because we don't like what's happening. And it's a fine line because, of course, when we offer prayers, when we're going to the river and we are in relationship with the nature beings, when we are in relationship with the illuminated ones, our star family, there is this sense of, okay, recognition and humility that I only have so much access to understanding from my human mind. And so we are in prostration to a greater wisdom. And there's a beauty in that. It's when that feeling of, I want to do this so I don't simply feel the absolute fragility and vulnerability of what it is to live a human life. And that's really where the Holy Divine can start to make its way and within us and process through us. Because no matter what, we are in these human bodies, and the absolute, just what can be so terrifying is that the truth at the end of the day is that we have no control. We have no control over what tomorrow will bring. We do not know when ourselves or our loved ones will pass. We all go through such a deep initiations in life and truly horrible situations and things that bring us to our knees, and we're in the dark night. And many times we don't know when that dark night will come into the dawn. And so there's a way that we have to be conscious of the path that we engage in and how much of it is rooted still in these fears of survival, the fear of death, the fear of the unknown. Because what is the unknown, right? It's that void. And so the more that we can sit, not to remove the uncomfortability, but to be able to become more masterful within the uncomfortability, the more we can practice in a way that is courting the little deaths, so to speak. So when we do approach the big transition, that our consciousness knows this path a little bit better, because that truly ultimately is the ultimate threshold, the ultimate initiation is when we drop our bodies and our consciousness goes on. And if we have spent a lifetime of grasping and striving and trying to just like be here and have and avoid the absolute terror of the no control, it's going to be a sketchy moment at the end, right? So we want to court the little deaths in our lives, and we can do that through being able to sit with what is and being able to let ourselves surrender into the unknown, into that void. And there might be places in your life that the unknown is courting you right now. And there might be places, pieces of the pie of our life, all the different places in our life that things are flowing. And so we want to turn our attention to those places, those aspects of our life that the unknown is right there. It's like it gets into our conscious mind, but then it goes back, recedes into the unconscious, because there's a play going on of the fear of what will happen if I just let myself die into the void and die into the unknown. What will, like, ultimately the change that will happen terrifies us. And even if our conscious mind is doing the vision board and like we want X, Y, and Z and all the things, if we have not gotten our nervous system, if we have not trained our consciousness on the unconscious level to be able to expand into that terrifying moment where there is no self, you have no answers, you have no control, that there really is the death happening, then in waking life and what we are trying to create will consistently contract. And if we don't take the time to listen and turn towards those places of the void, the unknown, what's courting, what's stalking us, we turn and we stalk it, then that's when we go through, a lot of the times, if we haven't listened over and over and over, then life will do its thing. We've all had that experience. And then there's just those moments where really hard things happen. There's loss of loved ones, there's divorces, there's loss of jobs, there's loss of animals and pets, there's child loss, there's so much, there's sickness, there's cancer that happens. And the human mind, no matter how much we can grasp that there is a higher play, the divine play that is in, it's working itself out in the moment, there's immediately the why. The why did this happen? How did this happen quickly follows. And so it's working with those whys and the hows and the part of self that is still looking, still plugged into the merit. I mean, the punishment and a reward system, right? So we're good people, we eat healthy, we do the things, we're in service. How could X, Y, and Z happen? And it's a natural human response because it's a response of the mind. And the nature of mind is going to be to go towards preference and avoid what is uncomfortable. And in my own experience, the more I can simply let go of the fundamental questions of why and how, and let them simply be in my field, because they're not going away. We can't force them to go away. It's like, oh, the mind, that part of self, the part that's still very much in survival, is really having a hard time with the why of this. And have greater awareness. Let it be. Let it alchemize within your being. It will show you deeper places within yourself, deeper understandings of the nature of life, the nature of consciousness. There was, years and years ago, I was in the hospital, and my son had died in utero, and I had a rare experience of help, pretty extreme. And I myself was dying. And there was this place where no one knew if I was going to survive or not. And there was a timing at play. I either was going to die with my son, or I was going to be able to have a miracle and have it to where my body that was failing, my organs were failing, to be able to birth him. And then they could send me to the procedure that would save my life. And the more that I just started to dissolve into the in-between and dissolve into the unknown, dissolve into the place of the void, the more that truth came. And I was like, I knew, I'm like, I'm dying. And then in that realization, everyone around me knew I was dying. And I said goodbye to my partner at the time. I just knew this was what was going to happen. And the room started to change. There was a way that I would look around and I could only see my hands and just move my eyes because I was dying and I couldn't move. And the walls would become stone, and there would be this coolness. The temperature would change. There would be a distinct sense that I could almost, my awareness could almost land on. And then as soon as I started to have more awareness of the situation, it's like the scene would change. And then there was an adobe structure, and there was a dirt floor, and there was straw, and there was more warmth. And it kept happening. And something so deep inside me, a gnosis, a direct knowing, it was like, oh, I was reliving all the times I had died in childbirth. And I knew, with no judgment and no desire to change anything, that I too, in this 21st century, with all the Western medicine and all the machines, that I was going to die again in childbirth, that there was this loop happening in my relationship with motherhood that wasn't changing. It was the same over and over in these different lives and in this life. And the thing that I could see was, as these different sceneries would change, my hands would change. And, you know, first I had like my fair skin with freckles. And then I would be tan. And then I was this dark ebony, my hands be this dark ebony color. And then it was a dark brown. And I was reliving these different bodies. And then I re-landed on the pale skin. And at that time, it was turning jaundice, but with freckles. And I landed back into this body. And I simply was observing what was. There was something about my consciousness that had untethered enough from this body, from the system in my survival brain that is always on autopilot to stay here, to be. And so that had unraveled enough that I could just observe what was and have complete acceptance. There was no resistance. And so I just was observing what had happened in these different lives and what was happening. And it was matter of fact. And I remember turning to my partner at the time and was like, I'm going to die again in childbirth. Like, who would have thunk it? And there truly was no emotion, because there was something that was so indescribable of peace, because there was no resistance. And it was that moment that something shifted within my cellular structure, within my DNA, that I had never gotten to in this life, no matter how many hours of meditation and ashram living and like ceremonies and all the things. Something, because I was untethered enough, I was about to make the great transition, that something could come in and land in my system that was of no resistance, of complete acceptance of the unknown, of merging with what arises. So I didn't die, clearly, and that why and how and all that is a story for another time. But I did brush up against the threshold of death, and I met death in a way that I'd never met before. Even with having seizures as a child and the little deaths that happen when you have seizures. And quite honestly, it's taken me almost a decade to integrate, much less articulate the change that happened within me, and the change that was an energetic frequency shift within my DNA. And it's not that I don't have moments of grasping, or the whys or any of that, but life did begin anew for me. And there was a time where there's this fear of death that has loosened its grip. And so I was able to really accept the divine that lives in me, and really accept that as many readings I get, astrology charts, the readings I do for others, that we can, as humans, we can learn how to have a conversation between the worlds. I've always been a walker between the worlds. I've always been more comfortable in the other world. And yet I'm still like walking on this earth. And so therefore there is still the unknown, as much as clairvoyance, as psychics, as oracles, it's never a guarantee. It's always a flash of a moment in time. So as much as we want to understand, and we seek counsel from oracles, from psychics, to navigate our lives, there is truly a way that always it's beneficial to keep returning to the great unknown, to keep returning to that place of the void and the surrender over and over and over to death, so that you can be reborn in the moment, that a new timeline can be reborn, that we can really being able to die over and over truly is that we can actually live, that there's a way that we can be free and liberated in a way beyond our wildest dreams. We can still, have the conscious awareness and take actions to, transform, alchemize our limiting beliefs, have practices that fine tune our skills of energy management and alchemy. But at the end of the day, there is that relationship to death and relationship to the unknown, and the relationship on how you respond to the fact that we have no control. So it's not a glamorous topic. It's nothing that's like, ooh, we're going to talk to the 5D angels now, or, go talk to the Lemurians, and all the things that are juicy and insightful and important. It's not glamorous at all. It's the unknown. It's the fear, and it's really returning to our humanity, returning to the fragility of our humanity. And that can be so, I won't say boring. What's the word? There's a way that it's just not exciting as much as we can, there's so much else to put our attention onto. But the ways that we also put our attention on the other can be the trickery of avoiding the truth that no one's coming to save us. No one's going to grant you a life free of suffering. And to really face that in your humanity, in the way that your nervous system, that your brain has been wired for thousands of years. And that place of being able to meet yourself where you're at will then allow your DNA to make the upgrades to start to unravel from its programming. So I could go on and on and on. It's a juicy topic, even if it's not very glamorous or fun. But we're going to go into an experience where we get to sit together in the unknown, and we get to court the void, and through that, the most unexpected miracles and synchronicities can happen, and where you'll be able to access the joy, the absolute exquisite beauty that can be terrifying in life and in yourself. So if you want to take a moment get settled. So thank you for being here with me. I'm Caroline. If you're new to this channel, I've been in the healing arts, mystic arts, intuitive realms, shamanic realms for professionally for over 20 years. And really my whole life I've been navigating what is it to be a walker between the worlds. And I just so appreciate you being here. There's so much that calls to our attention and needs our awareness. So I really value your time. So thank you. So if you've been listening to this while walking or driving, I encourage you to make the effort to come and listen to this when you have space. It's really going to be a shift of awareness that will serve you well. And if you are able, if you can get yourself comfortable, coming into a seated position, if it feels available to close your eyes, please do so. If that doesn't feel a place that you want to go, you can have a soft gaze. Begin by bringing awareness to the breath. Inviting your awareness to follow the in-breath and the out-breath. Feeling the weight of your body on the chair or the couch or the floor. Inviting the breath to become deeper, perhaps more elongated as it reaches down into your belly. Belly expands, rises the rib cage, shoulders drop, jaw relaxes, crown reaching towards the heavens. Taking a moment of appreciation for yourself at this moment, for showing up, for taking this time to be with self, allowing the identities, the to-dos to fall away. Sending a hello to the sacred earth, Pachamama, Mother Gaia, from which we sit upon and live out our lives. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Sensing the base of the spine, that root chakra that goes all the way down to the heart of the earth. Allowing that taproot and grounding core to be nice and strong. Bringing awareness back up to the base center. And go up the central channel to where all of our chakras are aligned. Saying hello to the sacral center, the solar plexus right below our sternum, right below our rib cage. Then up into the heart, up into the throat. The third eye, the point between the eyebrows and deep inside the brain. And the crown at the top of the head, allowing the petals to unfurl. Sensing a foot above the head at the soul light, the ba, all the way up to the heart of the divine. Taking the next few breaths, simply be. You're connected to the earth, connected to the heart of the divine, and you are the divine. Expand into space. What is it for you to sit in the unknown, the void? When the mind wanders, bring it back to the breath. And back to the unknown. What do you sense? See, hear, feel in the subtle realm of the unknown. Great void. Dissolve. Become present to the nature of your mind. Let it do its thing. Just bring back to awareness. Bring your presence back into the unknown. Bringing awareness to your heart center, right in the center of your chest. From this point of awareness, reaching out into the unknown, out into space. Let go. Letting your consciousness expand just a little bit more into the unknown, into the void. No thing, no place, no time. Stay present. Melt. Allow. You are nothing. You are everything. Getting to bring your awareness back to your breath. Back to your body. Slowly returning to the realm of this world, 3D reality. Coming all the way back, feeling your toes and your fingers, your body and the weight on the chair. Breathing into the front of your heart and the back of your heart. Arriving to your life, to this moment, and opening your eyes when you're ready. Welcome back. Welcome back. When we court the unknown and take the time to let ourselves drop the personality, excuse me, drop the identity, drop even the desire for outcome, then we open the space for life to have its way, the synchronicities, the miracles, and also the ability to stay with the brutality of life and to stay with the exquisite beauty of life, and to allow our hearts to be open and continue to open not only to what is divine and holy, but what is mundane. And then the line between those two becomes thinner and thinner and thinner until we know, not from an intellectual, philosophical place, but from a lived, embodied experience, that they truly are one and the same. There's a staying power, there's an embodiment, there's a place where we get to fall back into our seat in a way that's more easeful when we really practice this sitting in the void, sitting in the unknown. So hope this was helpful. If you did find it helpful, please subscribe below and send this to anyone that you might think would be helpful. And I look forward to seeing you next week.